work quietly and follow along. At any point, click the pause button to catch up or take a break. Hi artists, today we're going to be doing something called metal embossing. Embossing is a cross between printmaking, which is making a copy of something, and metals. This process is copying design, like a drawing, to our sheet metal by producing a raised or sunken relief in the areas of the metal. It's a really fun process and it's really simple, but it has amazing results. So let's get started. First, what you're gonna need is some type of drawing. I did a more basic outline, but you can add as many details as you want. It might be helpful to have more details, so when you go to transfer to the metal, they're there. But I'm gonna just show you a basic outline and then we'll go into those details and type of texturing. We have some really thick, this is 36 gauge tin foil, and I also have felt. Felt is going to act like your cushion between your metal and the table surface. I'm also using a very old pen. All right, so once you have a drawing, you're gonna lay it on top of your tin foil, and you're gonna lay your tin foil on top of your felt piece. All right, it's important that we have a drawing. If we just drew directly on the metal, it might leave pen marks, or the paper itself also acts as a cushion so we don't rip the metal. All right, before you begin, we want to make sure that our drawing is always staying lined up with your metal. That way it doesn't move and things don't get unaligned. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my metal flat and my drawing, and I'm going to tape around the edges. I'm going to do it in each corner, or at least on each side. There we go, and I think I'll do one at the bottom, just so it can't shift around. This is just a really helpful extra step to take. So I'm gonna take it off the table. Remember to place your cushion, which is your felt, back on. And actually it works really great if you just kind of press down that tape one more time. There we go. Now we are ready. Here is our pen. And I'm gonna start by tracing the dragon. It just is a really good outline. I'm gonna begin by its head. The nice thing with using a pen is it has a ball surface at the end, so it won't rip your paper, but also you can tell where you have traced. With my pen, I'm pressing pretty hard, but not so hard that I want to like rip the paper on purpose. Okay, so I just traced my dragon fully with pen, and I gave a good amount of pressure so it transferred to my metal. It's going to be extremely tempting, and I wish I could show you what it would look like on the metal, but I don't want to give away the surprise, and I don't want to risk having to reline up my drawing, and then everything would be off. So we're going to continue on. I'm going to talk to you about why I chose a dragon for my subject matter. A dragon has a lot of cool texture, especially with the scales. So now we're going to talk about how we can texture when we emboss metal. With my pen, I did not draw my textures with pencil. So I'm going to be doing it with the pen and embossing at the same time. So since dragon texture overall is very simple, what I plan to do, I felt like confident just doing it right on the paper to the metal. I'm going to start with doing his underside, which is his scales, and usually I want that to have like some nice horizontal lines showing kind of that bumpy scaling that they have. I'm making my lines get wider and farther apart to really show the growth of the body and how it, isn't as tight there, and it's slowly going to get smaller. There we go. Still pressing really, really hard. All right, now what we're gonna do is I am going to texture the dragon's scales. So when I texture his scales, I first want to have this line divided that. Just notice that. Okay, and I do want to have kind of a horn there, and maybe an ear right there. As you draw things, you really start to notice different areas you'd like to add. Okay, I'm gonna start by just pressing down, making little circles with my tip of my pen. I'm going straight up and down, just like so. And I'm gonna do this across all the dragon's body. Okay, I just finished embossing the texture scales of my dragon, both on his body and then kind of underneath. We're gonna continue adding some details. I like to add just some fine lines for maybe some claws. Okay, if you haven't noticed already, line plays a very important role when you create texture. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna just draw the flames with using basic line. And then you'll see how those lines actually become texture. So here we go. Okay, and you'll see that when we relieve that from the paper. These are just some basic lines I did. If you're ever unsure, like, oh, I don't think I pressed that hard enough, you can always go back and redo it. Just be careful you don't lean your hand too much on your metal. But sometimes when we have the tape, it's a little bit unclear to see that you pressed it because the pen wears off on the tape. Okay, so some other texturings we can do here. I did some swirls, basic line. What looks really cool is when you go around your whatever you drew, just with some, you know, kind of cupping and shaping your picture. Now if I repeat that process, doing another lap around, it looks like a really cool effect when we go to color it. So here my drawing, it didn't quite, you know, reach the page. So this would be the time where I would then kind of go off my paper and do it again. I could do it over here as well. Okay, we're gonna continue on. Okay, here is my finished piece. Some really good things you can do that make your artwork really finished is you would emboss like a frame around or some type of design. Let's go ahead and we're going to relieve the picture or take it off. My metal's pretty stuck to the paper because I was pressing hard on it, so try to pick a corner. And voila! You can see how awesome this is, and I'm gonna bring it up to the camera more so you can see it. Wow, the ballpoint really did some awesome work on the texture of my dragon. Now you can flip it and you'll get even kind of a different, sometimes it's a little bit more clear, depending what kind of texturing you do, but amazing. So now what we're gonna do is, we're gonna use Sharpie markers and you're gonna fill in all of the spaces. When you flip it, sometimes it's a little easier too, but I'll show you how to do that next. Here we go. Coloring your embossed metal. This is how I drew it. So I just removed my drawing. And you'll notice that when you flip it over, it has a little bit different textures. So for example, my ballpoint pen, here on this side, it's making an indent. But on this side, it's actually coming towards you. And it becomes more of a textured surface rather than a negative. It's a positive, it's coming at you. So I'm gonna give you the choice as the artist. Whatever side you like better. So you get different effects when embossing. Here, you know, my texture of my dragon, using that example again, is different than it is this side. You can use any one you want. I'm personally really torn. I think I'm just gonna go with this way, but I also like how when I touch it, it gives that really good feeling. All right, I am going to use, you know what? I'm gonna use this side. Okay, so when you go to color your metal, you still need your felt piece as your cushion. And I'm gonna zoom this in so you can see all the action as I'm doing it. Whoops, there we go. Okay, so since I flipped it, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be using Sharpie marker, and I'm gonna go in certain areas just to kind of show you. I'm gonna be coloring. It turns into like a coloring book, okay? Amazing. Now, because the metal, it kind of shifts and moves and it bends, you have to have a lot of control with your Sharpie because your Sharpie marker is going to want to slip into like some of the grooves. And here I'm just going right over the texture I created, but you can do totally different effects. Maybe I would come back and just glaze over the top of that texture to get different effects that way too when I color it. Now, to really show that we have different sections of shapes, so I have my dragon's body versus its leg, you're going to leave a little bit between those two untouched or uncolored. Okay, that will allow the beautiful color of the metal to come through, and it will really give your viewer a clue that this is metal. That's what this artwork is made out of. So amazing. Be sure to color the whole thing, and I'll be right here. You can see it as an example. Here we go.